Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another Degrassism, and this time it's based off of a photo of someone doing a special event, and that event was to name a character that had low suffering in their life, medium suffering, and high suffering in their life, and also causes low suffering, causes medium suffering, or high cases of suffering. So basically, you have the tic-tac-toe. Of course, the 9 spots are seen on the screen, so the question on everyone's lips will be like, are these characters deserved to be that way? Where they are. Well, we'll go through each character. We're going to the 3 characters first will be the ones who cause low suffering. And that's it. Basically, they cause not a lot of trouble for anybody, not a lot of suffering. First off, is top left is Jake, or I think that's Jake or something like that, because it's like guy was marshmallow, if you will. He was kind of low suffering. Like he didn't suffer a lot of things. I mean, the fact that he and Claire were step siblings once Claire's mom married Jake's dad was amazing. But like Jake seemed to not get in trouble with a lot of things, and Claire seemed to, and basically was upset with the double standard. And everyone thought that Claire was off her rocker, but she actually had a point. Um, you see Toby in the medium suffering category, but causing low suffering as well. So Toby was basically a good guy and basically shafted by the writers, not for one time, but multiple times. Toby's medium suffering comes from the fact that he comes from broken up parents too, and is in a blended family alongside Ashley, as Ashley's mom and Toby's dad end up getting married and all that. So Ashley and Toby are step siblings and all that. Toby, of course, getting tired of Ashley's antics and all that. But this was season 1. Toby and Ashley were threatening to break out and basically be bigger than the big protagonist, that be Emma. Now, when I look at this is one of the few lists that Emma is in no condition and all that. She probably, by my suffering, I think she is medium suffering, but causes high suffering because of her causes and giving Manny problems. I would have put her, but there's someone there that's better. So for Toby to cause low suffering, is that, well, what was the problem? Like Toby didn't cause too many problems and all that. He embarrassed JT after JT had wet dreams about Liberty. He hung out with Rick, which caused a lot of people all that, but it basically caused a lot of people to shun Rick, too. Shun Toby, especially JT. After JT and Toby go their separate ways, JT chases after Daniel as a friend, that's Liberty's brother, and Toby's all by himself, and he gets Rick and all that. Fortunately, JT does pop by and say he realized his mistake. Yeah, it felt like Toby needed a hug or something, needed to be recognized within the universe because of the whole Rick situation. And then, in season 6, when JT dies, who also is not in this grid, Toby is smitten with Liberty and basically could have started a relationship with Liberty because they both were suffering, or in my words, trauma bonding, but that technically is incorrect. I know I did a Degrassism about trauma bonding, and I couldn't get the right words out. Sorry, but the fact of the matter is that Toby just couldn't bear to be with Liberty because it would be hurting his late friend JT. So he basically said, "I can't be that type of person." And some people online years ago shafted him for him, saying that that's stupid because Toby could be in a great position. Heh. Not with the Degrassi writers thing. Worst of all for Toby, by season 7, he wasn't even in the opening credits of the show. They basically told him to take a hike and all that. And in the high suffering, low causing low suffering is Terry. It makes so much sense. I mean, the things Terry suffered from, and not just Rick. The first few seasons, she suffered from self confidence issues. Paige basically getting her drunk to take advantage of Spinner, which was pathetic. Paige was a dick. All that. And Terry being in the so called shadow of Paige alongside Hazel. The only thing Rick was right about Terry is that Terry should not be in Paige's shadow and all that, and that Paige needs Terry in her shadow. That's the only thing he's right about. But the fact of the matter is that Terry did get her own back by waving her check as a plus size model at an ice cream boy. And Terry was just pure hearted and all that. Unfortunately, Rick got to her and things did not look good. All right, so let's go to the middle pocket that caused medium suffering. First off is Sav. He was low suffering and caused medium suffering. He was decent and all that. Low suffering is that Sav was the product of a Muslim family's thing, and most Muslim families basically pride the male over the female, that the female has to do work around the house and basically be a servant, if you will. I don't know how they do it. But the fact is that Sav got away with a lot more than Ali did and all that. Sav did protect Ali in a sense when Ali ran away from home, saying that Ali's suffering through and you're not giving her a chance to talk about things. So fortunately, the Vandaris changed their tone and all that. But Sav had an arranged marriage. Unfortunately, that arranged marriage had some problems, and luckily for Sav, he couldn't marry Farah. But, he caused medium suffering, especially with Anya, because of the fact that Anya wanted to be with Sav and said she would read the Quran and do whatever it takes, but the Mandaris say no way. And poor Anya was so like stricken. She went to Dr. Chris and Owen trying to get a relationship, trying to be normal and all that. And all of a sudden she just couldn't be. And she went to the military. The fact of the matter is that, Sav was okay. And then, of course, he caused the problems with Miss O and all that. Both of them were at fault. How come nobody got any ramifications? And then, right stuck in the middle with you is Sean. Medium suffering and causing medium suffering, especially to Emma and Ellie. Sean was introduced in the second episode, or was it the third episode of the show? I can't remember. But anyway, he was introduced as some guy from Wasaga Beach, and Emma was smitten with him. He was a tough guy, and Emma thought she could make him, you know, lose some edge. And then, of course, Sean gets pissed off with Jimmy telling him all this stuff about being held back and all that because he's being stupid. He lets his anger get to him, and then he inadvertently punches Emma in the argument. Sean and Emma are stopping a thing, and then season 2 they get back together for some strange reason, and then Sean helps Emma navigate things until Emma has to stay back to deal with Snake with leukemia and a new baby brother, and Sean is forced by the candy is drawn by the Candy Bandits, Jay's group, to do all that. And practically, Sean has to embrace his inner bad boy. He steals stuff to impress Jay and his crew. He causes suffering, like he causes Emma to suffer because of things. He causes Radish to suffer because, the lack of budgetary things to replace things. And, even Snake, especially Snake, with stealing the laptop to get back at Emma for calling him pathetic and all that. Sean did confess at the end of season 3 and said he would help Snake out in every way possible. And of course, season 4 is when he inadvertently kills Rick with Rick's own gun, but he was protecting Toby and Emma for that matter, and knew he had to calm down the situation like a true professional cop, but it didn't matter. So anyway, Sean felt guilty and about killing Rick, and there was zero chance he was going to be punished for it unless Rick's parents got some justice. But I doubt that highly. I think Rick's parents probably would have been shut down, saying, "Your son's a school shooter. We're not supposed to give you sympathy," and all that. And the pair had to leave Toronto. I think the dad would have had to suffer greatly because of a penalty for having a gun that's easily accessible by Rick. I mean, come on. Rick's dad had to face some consequences. Well, Sean leaves for Wasaga to deal with his PTSD, causes Emma grief because Emma wanted to be with Sean after he saved her life. And Ellie wanted to stay with Sean because, they were in student housing together. And now Ellie had to pick up the pieces, make rent and all that. But then her mom convinces her to get out of the situation. Sean comes back in season 6, Say what you want, but I think he was there to break up Pema because of how shitty Pema was and all that. Nobody wanted to see Peter and Emma as a couple. Nobody. Not even Peter and Emma, probably. But anyway, yeah. Sean does give Sean does get in trouble thanks to Peter, but in the end, Emma chooses Sean over Peter and sticks her tongue out at Peter and all that. Sean joins the military because he has little chances, even though he could have been brought back to school. But Sean basically said there was no way Hatzell was going to change her mind. So he goes to the army. Emma is upset, almost fakes a pregnancy, but then gets her period. But then she's like, she wanted to latch on to Sean. I mean, I don't blame Emma one bit. I mean, Sean saved her life, and the fact is she's scared of losing Sean because of war and all that. He comes back for a weekend to spend with Emma and Snake before he goes to Afghanistan, Kandahar to be exact, in season 7. Yeah, he caused a lot of trouble. He caused Ellie to basically be a pick-me girl, in a sense. For high suffering and causing medium suffering is Paige. Paige was high suffering because of what Dean did to her in season 2. She was attracted to Dean even though that he was playing soccer for a rival school. That means Banting. Banting? That can't be right. Because Banting's a university. Well, doesn't matter. Bartell, excuse me. Yeah, Bartell was the school. And, Paige thought that Dean liked her and all that. Unfortunately for her, Dean had his way with Paige, and Paige was scared to tell people, obviously, because of her reputation. She finally gets to point pointing to do so and confronts Dean and basically says, I'm coming for you. No mascot boy is going to save you. And then she writes a song about this stuff and plays it in front of Dean at the coffee house, and Dean walks away. Season 4, she gets her rape trial, and finally she could destroy Dean. She has second thoughts, but Spinner basically tells her it's too late now. That's why Spinner's not on this thing. Good. But anyway, Paige does some great testimony. Unfortunately, the judge said lack of physical evidence destroys everything. Even Dean's lawyer looks shocked, and that's amazing. Nevertheless, Paige, crashes Spinner's car into Dean's car for revenge, and all hell breaks loose. But Paige does take the fall and tells Dean at the police station that, I'm going to confess to something. That's what good people do when they do bad stuff. But Dean refuses to say anything and basically says that you want me because why are you attacking me? What a prick. Anyway, Paige ends up in a relationship with Mr. Olander, which was wrong on every sort of command. And Olander tried to get Paige to take all the blame. It's like watching Paige in that scene, like she basically wants to get out of Degrassi and get out of the situation. Why? He's the bad guy. Why are you defending this guy? It was just ugly. Olander finally decides to take the rap, even though that he should have. I mean, yeah, Snake and Hatzalakos were asking questions, but those two wanted to help Paige. There was no way they were anti-Paige. Paige thought they were going after her, but no. I think Snake and Hatzalakos were saying that Olander was the prick, not her. But anyway, yeah, she suffers massively. She has high suffering through her relationships because her relationship with Spinner went south because of that car thing. Olander basically made her try to take the rap for everything. Rick was back at the school in season 4, and that was terrible for Paige. Four men basically took advantage of her, and maybe just maybe that was the spark to make her turn the other way and go after Alex for a genuine lesbian relationship. Unfortunately, that doesn't go over so well as Paige at times basically figures she's above Alex's level and all that and becomes a prick and all that. And then, of course, she gets together with an HIV positive person named Griffin for sex and all that. And basically, it's proven that she didn't really get the condition, even though Griffin should have been up for it. And then Paige in season 8 in the Degrassi Hollywood movie gets Manny's role mostly because of it by accident. She was a stupid general assistant to a reality star. So basically, Paige was just a dog walker in everyone's mind, and she thought she was good, but she was above her own station. She wanted to probably hide the fact that she's a personal assistant and not getting a lot of love and all that. Marco and Paige had a massive falling out. Fortunately, Paige does get Manny to get that role back. So she did something cool. All that. And now you got the bottom of the barrel, the guys who caused a lot of suffering. And I can't think of anyone else than those three bastards. Especially Jay. Jay to me is my biggest villain. Is my biggest living villain in Degrassi history. Rick is dead, so obviously Rick can't be it. But it's Jay for no damn reason. Look at his track record from season 3 to even 9. Season 3, he pops up with his crew, known as the Candyman, thanks to the internet, and they take Sean under their wing. Sean and Jay actually have a fight, and then Jay recognizes Sean as the guy who deafened a guy in Wasaga and says, "You're cool, let's join the gang." So, joining other people, Sean steals stuff to impress Jay and them, and basically, Jay was the devil on Sean's shoulder. Season 4, he was the devil on Spinner's shoulder, as Spinner may have had some thoughts about not doing stuff, but Jay was there. Jay helped Spinner out with the plan to foil Rick from knowing about the paint and feathers thing. And then, of course, in the bathroom, when Spinner realizes that he may have screwed up by telling Jimmy everything about the whole paint thing, because he bragged about it. Never mind the deleted scene in which Raj wants to talk to Spinner for a 3:30 talk. Spinner was screwed no matter what, because within the actual product, he bragged about it to Jimmy. He figured he was going to get narked. Jay tries to do his best friend a favor by blaming Jimmy for everything and gets Spinner to blame Jimmy. Of course, they didn't know that Rick had a gun and all that. But yeah, Jimmy got shot and all that. And Spinner did want to confess to everything. But Jay told him and Alex to shut up, in a sense. Jay got what was coming to him as Spinner finally confessed his crime. That's Lackles. Also, what about Emma in season 4? Emma was forlorn. She was lost. I think she was just internalizing a bit too much, and nobody could get her to open up. And then Jay opened her up with gonorrhea. Emma realizes her mistake, tells him, "You gave me a social disease," and basically chewed him out and all that. Season 5, he was the devil tried to be the devil on Spinner's shoulder again. As you know, Spinner was trying to redeem himself by being in the Christian club and meeting Darcy and trying to prove to Jimmy, Marco, and crew that he has changed. Jay basically wants Darcy to have sex with Spinner and tells about Spinner's history with Paige. However, Spinner turns on Jay and basically says, "Why did I have to listen to you? If it wasn't for you, Jimmy would be walking and I wouldn't be in this much trouble." Jay tries to get out of it. Spinner and Jay finally break up as friends. I think a lot of people wanted that to happen. And then, of course, Jay pops up on JT's shoulder as a devil because JT needs money for a baby with Liberty and quits his kids show job and then gets a pharmaceutical job. And Jay tells him to steal OxyContin because people will sell their own mothers for them, the stuff. So JT does, and then is coaxed to try to get out of the mess, but he's in over his head. He overdoses. Jay, to his credit, does get JT to the hospital, and he's okay. He just has his stomach pumped. But Jay is a freaking devil on the shoulder. Season 6, he was the devil on Peter and Sean's shoulder. I think he wanted Sean to have a street race for Emma's heart after Peter got Sean expelled with the fake drugs. So yeah, so he arranged this whole street race. And then when Sean hits the pedestrian, he tells Sean to leave the scene saying that they'll go easy on Peter because he's a minor, but you're in deep trouble. Like, dude, you're telling someone to leave the scene of an accident? That's pathetic. And the worst part is nobody calls him out on it. Sean doesn't call him out on it. Emma doesn't call out on him. Nobody calls him out. Even Peter doesn't call Jay out. They say Sean should have said to people, "Well, it's Jay's fault. He told me to flee." I mean, Jay should have went in jail. I mean, dude was like 30. That's what a lot of people say. But yeah, too much and all that. He could have caused a whole lot worse. And then he was on the devil on Manny's shoulder in season 7 because Manny flaunted Jay in front of her parents to try to get more freedom, but the parents didn't budge. And Manny and Jay got fake engaged, and then they got engaged. But then a ring and Jay switching Manny's um, audition tape for a sex tape was pathetic. Shows how low key terrible Jay was. And then in season 9, with the whole thing, and as of this taping, September 18th, 2025, Degrassi Reddit's full of people asking whose fault was it for the sandwich maker fiasco in Degrassi Goes Manhattan. Well, Jay gets some blame because Jay wanted a hot sandwich. Emma said, I can't. The sandwich maker's broken. I'm asking for a hot sandwich. Are you going to give it to me or not? Even though Emma does tell him no a second time. The customer's always right. Emma reluctantly does it, and then the dot burns down. I think for certain that should not have burned down. A lot of people even said that maybe it was some insurance fraud. But Jay was the one who got Emma to use the sandwich maker and started this whole event with Spinner and Mary. Guy needed to go to jail. Guy needed to go to juvie. Guy needed to get out of my fucking life when it comes to Degrassi. Excuse me, that's the way I say it. All right, so Peter he has medium suffering and causes high suffering. Well, causing high suffering, obviously, but medium suffering. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Peter is suffering because his parents are divorced. But Peter manipulates both his dad and Hatzelackos for things. I mean, look no further than season 5 when he exposed Manny and all that. I mean, Peter had all this great gear mostly because his dad was an absentee father in a sense and wanted to buy Peter's love. And I mean, Hatzelackos also wanted to buy Peter's love because she was worried that Peter would love her, the dad, more than her. I mean, Hatzelackos, for all she was coming through as principal after Radish screwed everything up in season 4, she didn't help matters in a few things and made some enemies along the way. But Peter was a dickwad in every shape of the form. Season 5, he gets May to bare her breasts and all that, saying she was going to be famous, and then blackmails her for $3,000 for a new camera so that she doesn't get the video taken to the whole school. But she can't come up with the money, and Peter says, okay, let's upload. He gets Manny kicked off the Spirit Squad. Manny gets kicked out of her house and has to live with Emma and Snake and Spike, them. And what does Peter get? Weeks upon weeks of detention. No suspension and no expulsion. Especially no suspension. Expulsion, yeah, he should have gotten, but you should be suspending him. Hatzelackos was probably just trying to get Peter's love, which was the stupidest thing and one of the worst things why Hatzelackos is not the greatest teacher and principal in the world. I think Simpson, in a sense, is better than her. I mean, yes, Simpson made some mistakes, but at least he doesn't show complete favoritism to students, unless they're Audra's boys and Zoe. I'm not going to go into detail. Nevertheless, then worst of all, Peter ends up getting Emma, who is so wanting a rebound from Sean. She was willing to rebound, but she needed a boy. Emma needed a boy to keep her sane. That's the problem. I will die on that hill. But yeah, Emma and Peter together. And Peter puts Emma in a bad spot, making Emma inadvertently giving Emma a eating disorder because she has to try to hide her relationship with Peter. But Peter's a good guy to Emma in the sense, and then finally gets acceptance. And then Sean comes along, and Manny tells Peter about the history of those two, and Peter freaks out, and then plants the drugs in Sean's locker to get him out of the way so that he can get Emma and all that. And then, of course, the street race happens. He ends up getting lots of community service because of it, and because of his dad's connections, which basically makes him a privileged white boy. So that's what happens. He still has Emma for the time being until Emma finally gets the pieces connected, thanks to Jay and thanks to Manny. So Peter, of course, is pissed off, goes after Darcy and causes Darcy to do things that aren't Christian-like and all that, especially the photos to Adams. Peter kind of knew Adams, but not too well. They said that Peter was mad at Darcy not returning his feelings, so he framed Darcy with those pictures and all that. And then the worst part is Darcy came back to Peter. Peter basically cried crocodile tears to Darcy that he's a victim of a bad system and all that, saying that Emma and Manny hate him for no reason and that, he's trying to improve himself and nobody cares. That was for crocodile tears. Don't bullshit me. But yeah, he ends up getting Darcy, and then Darcy leaves for Kenya in season 8, and Peter's upset, and then Mia leaves Peter in season 9 for Paris. So Peter has second thoughts. He does calm down a little bit near the end of his run, but yeah, that's all right. But yeah, he causes a lot of problems. And of course, high suffering and causes high suffering. It's Rick. You really think it was going to be anyone else? The dude is one of the greatest Degrassi villains, if not the greatest Degrassi villain of all time, and not greatest as in like super good. I mean like evil. Rick had suffering. I mean, his parents were in a bad situation. He probably got emotionally, so he might have had emotional suffering from his absentee father, or even physical punishment too, kind of like Albert does to Craig. But the fact of the matter is that he has a lot of problems and he projects his anger at people. He is threatened by Jimmy being close to Terry for a director's thing. Rick purposely sets Terry up to lose and make Jimmy look like a fool. Terry wises up and yells at Rick, but Rick yells back and basically he emotionally abuses her. But he does push her against a wall, forcing them to break up. But then during a trust exercise, Rick and Terry are paired up, and Terry finds Rick attractive. Everyone's upset, especially Paige. Paige tries to get Terry to understand the situation, but Terry's like, no, I have to be with him, and all that. Rick was not just physically abusive, but emotionally abusive, and basically wanted Terry to slim down and order salads and all that. Everyone saw that. Jimmy saw that. Hazel saw that. Paige saw that. Spinner said. And then when Terry, not wanting to be part of a third wheel situation with a road trip with Paige and Jimmy, Paige and Jimmy with their significant others, Paige and Spinner and Jimmy and Hazel. Terry didn't want to go by herself, so she takes Rick along. Rick pisses off Paige a lot by basically saying, "You're putting Terry under your shadow. Let her grow out of it." And then Paige forces him to run off, and then Terry tries to run after Rick and talk to him, but Rick says, "You're defending Paige? Why?" He basically blows a gasket at Paige, at Terry, and her head strikes a rock. Basically, Rick is scared about things, and then when he comes back to the school, his mom's got some stuff for him. Spinner tries to beat him up, and then his mom protects him. But basically, when it comes down to it, Rick's family protects him. Like his mother is blissfully ignorant and very protective of Ricky. Well, mostly because, the father's not around as much. And I mean, we did know in Time Stand Still, she did say that she tried to warn Rick about coming back to Degrassi, but Rick told her not to worry. I mean, I think she did try to get him out of Degrassi, but failed and just basically had to take Rick at his word. But yeah, he suffered a lot. He got bullied, plain and simple. It was like, you know, he should be bullied for a few episodes and then basically everything wears down. But the students did not take their foot off the pedal with the bullying and all that. They wanted Rick out of the school, no ifs, ands, or candy butts about it. And the fact of the matter is that Raj did not help the situation at all. I mean, yeah, he ignored Rick at the end, but that was not the main problem for me. The main problem is he should have listened to the students and not let Rick back to the school. Okay, no criminal charges and all that, but are you not allowed to just go with your gut and say, no, I don't want this kid at my school? No, he was a freaking school board kiss ass, if you ask me. There are a lot of names for him. I think the Degrassi Reddit community will call him. But yeah, Rick was allowed back to school and he just didn't get the hint. Rick, in his mind, figured that they were going to stop bullying him, but it didn't happen. And then finally he decides to retaliate with the Circle X on his tormentor's cars, which gets him into deeper trouble. And then they have to think long and hard about how to destroy Rick, embarrassing him with the paint and feathers and all that. Rick, of course, comes back to the school with his paint and feathers outfit after picking up his dad's gun. He wants to shoot Paige, but Paige calms him down and infernally saving her butt. And then he goes to clean himself up, and then Jay and Jay and Spinner just had to be pricks and blame Jimmy for everything. And then Rick shot Spinner before being shot by Sean. I mean, if Rick had survived, I think Degrassi would have been in deeper trouble if Rick was alive, because then everything would have came through. Like the students would have been exposed. Paige's clique would have been exposed. Emma would have been exposed for her problems, and obviously Raj would have been exposed for bigger problems. The school would have been in bigger disrepute. Raj would probably have been fired and have an investigation on him. Like the teachers might have been investigated. Paige's clique could have been investigated. Degrassi could have fallen down because of this. Rick dying was one of the best things around for everyone. And I'll die on that hill. I really will. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.